Muñoz, the third Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of the Ecological Transition and the Demographic Challenge from Spain. Thank you. Iraq's Deputy Prime Minister for Energy Affairs and Minister of Oil, His Excellency Mr. Hayyan Abdel-Ghani. His Excellency Mr. Karim Badawi, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources of Egypt. His Excellency Dato Sri Fadillah, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Energy Transition and Water Transformation of Malaysia. His Excellency Mr. Edwin Palma Egea, Minister of Mines and Energy of Colombia. So thank you all for joining us. I'm looking forward to all of your insights and the panel. So Deputy Prime Minister, let me start with you. Spain has set these ambitious targets to reduce energy dependence, increasing the share of renewables. So how do you go about ensuring this coherent system-wide approach, given all the challenges that could also bring up?
Thank you. Good morning. And first, thank you very much for Government UK, Minister Fadillah, and of course, dear Haji. Thank you for organizing this very important meeting. I think this is
This is a clear example on how you were mentioning, both of you, how important is multilateral cooperation. This is a clear example of multilateral cooperation. So, indeed, in Spain, from the very beginning, we've been working hard in order to deliver high standards with clear goals and policies. And what we want is to ensure just and inclusive transition. And the reality that we are facing, our example, is that sustainability, security, and competitiveness are not a trilemma, are a clear opportunity in my country, in Spain. And I would like just to make real this opportunity. There are like 5 main pillars I would like to mention. Probably I will need one day to explain what we are doing in Spain, but 5 main pillars will be. We have anticipation and planning. This is one of the main issues we need to have. The second one is holistic approach. As Fadillah was mentioning, we have different threats, different elements that we need to address. So we need to have this holistic approach. The third one is cooperation at European level, but also globally. And social dimension for us has been very important and part of a success story in my country. And lastly, but it's also very important, innovation. And going to the first building block, that is the planning and anticipation, means certainty for investors, certainty for the civil society, means preparedness, means also anticipation in order to maximize all the full potential of this transition. And for that reason, we put in place the planning with short, medium, and long run. So we have the vision for 2030 and 2050, and with core elements like renewable energy. This is one of the core elements in our strategy, of course, but also energy efficiency, new vectors that will be needed in order to fulfill this decarbonization in 2050, which is a clear goal in Europe and globally. And of course, all those elements are very important for energy security in my country. And this is about planning, but the holistic approach is addressing different elements, as were mentioned before, like critical raw materials, technologies, resilient infrastructures. We also think, how is the link between energy, electricity at affordable prices and industry? So we put in place all those elements together. The third element, which is EU collaboration and global collaboration, is very important. We are under the fantastic umbrella of the European Union. Here is the Commissioner. And we work side by side with our EU colleagues and the European Commission. We have regulation, actions, measures, but we have something that is very powerful, that is solidarity among ourselves. And that's very important. And again, globally, I think it's very important to find trust partners globally for diversification that was mentioned as well. And one important element I just want to stress now is the social dimension. Social dimension means broad participation with all stakeholders, with business sector and civil society. We also have a just transition strategy. We put in place one specific element that for me it's part of the success story that we have in Spain, is that we make a socio-economic impact of all the planning and measures. That means that we know what is the impact in job creation, in equality, in economic growth, in health benefits. So we analyze those co-benefits in order to deliver our strategy. And just one minor message, not minor, important one, but the last one, I think we are in a very important momentum where all energy transition needs to be aligned with science and needs to be aligned with 1.5 degrees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Minister. I'm sorry to rush everyone. We're tight for time, so it's only a couple of minutes and then we'll get back. Let's now turn to the Deputy Prime Minister of Iraq. Your Excellency, of course, the energy sector has been central to Iraq, providing vital revenues. Now with rising temperatures, that's stressing the system. There's increased demand for energy for cooling. How is Iraq looking to balance this changing equation of energy?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Greetings to all. The issue of dealing with energy and diversification in Iraq, as you all know, fossil fuel will remain in use, and it's one of the important sources of energy production around the world. This fossil fuel, if I may say that, could also be looked at within the context of renewable energy and what impact that will have. We are a country that produces crude oil, and for us, it's one of the main resources of our income. And electricity power depends to a great extent on crude oil. And let me explain here that I'm talking about the crude oil, the derivatives, and the accompanying gas. And we worked a lot in order to boost and increase the production of gas. In COP28 in Abu Dhabi, it was looked at that this could be the transitional source of energy going forward. We put together a well-studied plan for this transition from crude oil to gas, and this is what we're working on. The government is committed within its program to build solar energy plants in order to produce electricity. And this will be producing 12,000 megawatts with the use of solar energy. And God willing, within this year, the first project will be launched for solar energy, and the capacity will be 250 megawatt. This is part of the contract that has been signed with Total, the French company, in the southern part of Iraq. There are 4 main projects. One of the fields, Artawi field, is also a main and important project for us. There are 5 oil fields at the moment which are being exploited. We have entered into a contract with a company in order to produce gas from these 5 oil fields. And as I mentioned, at the end of this year, the first phase of solar energy will be launched in order to produce 100 megawatts. And we will also use seawater in order to inject the fields in order to try and equalize the pressure. And this is the first time that we use this method in Iraq. This integrated project in the southern part of Iraq with the Total company, for us, is a very important new project, and the use of seawater is something new as well for us in Iraq. In Iraq, we have taken a lot of precautions. And here I'm talking about what was talked about in the Paris meeting with regards to the reduction of temperature by 2 degrees. And we are going to work towards this. By 2030, we will reduce the production of power by 23%.
Should be set with translation, and also a reminder that you should have a microphone actually next to you. Now, turning to Mr. Badawi, Your Excellency, you're approaching a 1-year anniversary in office with many advances and changes in the energy scene. Can you please highlight the Egypt oil and gas sector strategy to support the future energy security, but also being conscious about environmental and climate constraints? And you have a couple of minutes.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Fadillah, for the invitation, for being here, and thank you for the co-chair, your esteemed, Minister, for hosting the event here. So first of all, it's a great pleasure, great honor to be with such esteemed, panelists today. So it's a great honor. So for Egypt, really, you will see that the theme is really all about, energy, security, energy partnership, collaboration. And also, what I firmly believe in is how do we work together to unlock, all the subsurface potential for the benefit, of our partners, for their shareholders, and for our people, at the same time. And that is all about a win-win, value proposition. So for Egypt and in the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, we have 6 really main pillars, right, that we are focusing around. And I'll be very brief around those 6, and maybe we'll give some examples later on. But the first one is really how we can really focus on providing the petroleum products, right, for the people of Egypt, people who are living in Egypt, which is 120 million, people, in that market, and also to make that energy, also petroleum available for the people as well in the region, and also our partners, around the globe. And to do that, we really have to focus on production, right, in terms on the upstream front, in terms on how we can improve, the production from our existing fields, and how we can really unlock future reserves to be added into the production through promoting, more exploration activity. And this is really, we are focused in terms on how do we make that happen by helping our partners. And I always tell to our partners to help us, help them, help us, and how we can really unlock leveraging technology, how we can unlock having the right, fiscal regime, how we can have the right economics, which actually work for our partners, for their shareholders, and hence really for unlocking that subsurface potential. The second key pillar for us is how do we really unlock the potential from all the infrastructure which exists in Egypt in the petrochemical sector, in the refinery sector, in also our export of gas terminals, sector. And we have a huge, internal pipeline for crude, distribution, for gas distribution, and so forth. So essentially, how do we fully utilize this infrastructure, not only for the people of Egypt, but also for the people in the region? And again, not only based on our local production in terms of oil and gas, but actually how we can really leverage, the inflow of gas and crude from other parts of the world and fully utilize, this infrastructure for the benefit of the region. Then the third element is really on the mineral front, and this was also explained today as one of the key elements in terms on risks and potential for the future. So the mining sector is a sector that we are really focusing on, how we can unlock that full potential by really making, Egypt investable and, and very attractive to be able to unlock that potential. Today it's only 1% of the GDP. We want to make it 5-6%, and we're actively working on that through regulatory framework, predictability, infrastructure. The fourth key pillar, which is very important for us, is the energy mix. And this was also mentioned today as part of diversification. And this is where we're working very closely with the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy to make sure that we actually do not depend only on gas for our power stations, but really we've increased the target to have 42% of renewable energy as part of our energy mix by 2030. And this will really kind of help us unlock not only diversification of energy mix, but also to prepare also for the green energy of the future, green hydrogen, green ammonia, and so forth through green energy. The fifth pillar, which is very, very important, is nothing can be done without having, the focus on people, and hence focus on health and safety of the people who are working in the sector and on the periphery is very important, how they can come and work safely, how they can go back to their family and friends safely, and the environment, how we can leave also an environment which is also for future generations, and hence how we can work on the environment and energy efficiency. Last but not least is the sixth pillar, which is on regional collaboration. Regional collaboration is absolutely very critical to unlock the full potential, not only for Egypt based on the infrastructure that it has for the Egyptian people and so forth, but really for the people of the region. And there are many examples in terms of collaboration with regional partners to be able to unlock that full potential, whether in terms of connectivity with gas, such as what we're doing, for example, with Cyprus, interconnection of grids, right, such as what we're doing with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or in terms of interconnections with Europe, in terms with Greece and with Italy. So many opportunities for regional collaborations. So those are the 6 key pillars that we're revolving around, and then we'd be more than happy to share more examples on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Minister. So the Deputy Prime Minister will speak through translation, so please get your headsets ready. Now, Your Honourable Datu Seri Fadillah, as you seek to build and transform your energy sector, ensuring that it provides affordable energy for your citizens, how are you also balancing energy security, economic growth, but also environmental sustainability priorities?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, thank you, Mr. Fateh, Mr. Milburn, Minister Milburn, ladies and gentlemen. In the context of Malaysia, actually, what was said by Mr. Fateh, the 3 elements that we are focusing on. One is on clarity in terms of our policies, the diversification perspective, and also to make sure that in terms of policies and strategies, we are clear in terms of moving ahead. In order to achieve that, we have our energy policy, and through energy policy, we have introduced what we call the National Energy Transformation Roadmap. That's where we focus on how to make sure that we have secured in terms of electricity supply throughout not only Malaysia, but also within the region. The cooperation within the region and so on will be one of the focus areas that we're looking at. In terms of commitment for the trilemma, one is affordability, security, and also in terms of environment sustainability, that is clearly spelled out in our National Energy Transformation Roadmap. In order to do that, what we have formed is we have set up committee, what we call the Implementation and Planning Committee for Electricity at High Level between agencies and ministries. This is the committee will decide in terms of planning, the energy requirement, the future energy requirement, and the tariff and so on. It's all planned in that area. What will be the energy mix for the future? So this what we call JPAT. This committee actually ensures the electricity planning and also incorporate also the renewable energy requirement and also energy penetration, the grid modernization, and also tariff reform for those less in terms of to promote affordability, efficiency, and also sustainability. In the context of cooperation, we're looking also, we have introduced what we call the ENIGEM, and also the ASEAN Power Grid. We are chair of the ASEAN this year. So our focus will be on ASEAN Power Grid. This is where we have cooperation among ASEAN region, because within the ASEAN region, there'll be the need in terms of supporting each other. There are times that some of the member states will be having access in terms of electricity. This is where they can export it out. So our focus this year will be to come up with a regulation and also to study from all the other parts of the world how we can increase in terms of improve our energy exchange program among the member states. So this will be one of the focus areas that we're looking at. And hopefully by doing that, we'll be able to achieve, number one, security. Yep. At the same time, affordability in terms of the electricity supply among member states and cooperation among all the member states, among, in particular, the ASEAN member states. So this is the way forward as far as Malaysia is concerned. And we hope by doing that, we'll be able to make sure that not only Malaysia, but we also can contribute towards our commitment to clean energy for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Now, turning to Colombia now, and for the benefit of the audience, the minister, I believe, will respond in Spanish. Colombia is navigating, of course, the need to ensure energy security and affordable tariffs while advancing a just people-centered energy transition. So how is the government addressing these interconnected challenges in energy policy?
Well, good morning, everybody. Greetings to the government of the United Kingdom, Minister Miliband. It is very important, this gathering, for the United Kingdom after Brexit and for the European Union in considering this tax and tariffs tension in this moment, especially for Europe and also for South America, with our president, that is responsible for CELAC, in our country's president at the moment. I want to start there. We experience at the moment the first progressive government in the history of the country that has put at the center of the political discussion the topic of democratizing energy, placing in the center of that policy the uses of energy, as it has been presented here. There are millions of users, not just in our country, but in the region and in the country, that use the energy. But the electric system in Colombia historically has given the back to the users. That's why this government has proposed in its government program the emphasis in accelerating the energy transition to move the fossil fuels out of the market and create a matrix, an energy matrix clean, to reduce also the cost of energy in a country where many users they have to choose between either pay for the energy or to eat. That is a dilemma for them. And not forgetting that the right to energy is a human right today and is recognized like that, and is recognized like that amongst the objectives of sustainable development within United Nations. I also want to indicate, as you know, that Colombia is in the heart of Latin America, in the center of Latin America, and it has a great potential, that has been indicated by our president, to unfold huge amounts of renewable energy. We have great potential for that around the water, around the air, around the sun, and also strategic minerals, as has been indicated here, in order to go deeper in the energy transition. So amongst this convulsion in the world, I want to indicate that Colombia, as the heart of Latin America, is the future also for the United Kingdom and the rest of Europe. is very important. There is a political convulsion all over the world that affect all the topics of energy, as was indicated by our president when he became the president of CELAC. The topic of energy, the interconnection and the connectivity amongst countries that here has been emphasized is connected in the cooperation, with the cooperation. If the countries are closed down, we are not going to resolve the problems of energy security in the world. We need solidarity, cooperation, unity. And that's why I want to invite you to look into Latin America and Colombia with that huge potential to develop huge amounts of clean energy, not just to secure the decarbonization of the north of the world, the north, but also to develop a huge economy around the green economy, the economy around the energetic transition.
From the private sector, from the floor, to give their reaction, their perspective on the topic of the session. You just have a couple of minutes each because we are running a little bit behind schedule. But first of all, let's turn to, of course, the executive chairman of Iberdrola, José Ignacio Sánchez Galán, for your perspective.
So thank you very much, and thank you for having this opportunity of sharing my thoughts with such distinguished guests. So I think most of the things I was planning to say has been said. So, but I would like to reinforce some message. The first one is the electrification is unstoppable. So today, electrification, in these normal words, means energy security and means national security. And I insist, it's not my word. His word has been said by the Secretary of Energy of the United States in the recent summit in Cedar Week in Houston. And why? Major inventions in the second half of the 20th century are electricals. So the dependence of electricity in our lives every time is more and more. That makes the electricity demand, that's something with Fatih is already insisting all the time, is growing worldwide. But more than growing exists a high latent demand that we cannot serve in all countries. And we cannot serve because we need more networks infrastructure. So that is worldwide. I think we've been, for years, we've been involved in this sector for 25 years. We've been already making this energy transition, transforming our coal and oil power plant into renewables for many years. But I think it's not enough power. It's needed grids, it's needed networks to already take this electricity. So we have to invest much, much more in transmission and distribution networks to provide access to these new consumption drivers. Drivers, who has been mentioned, electric vehicles, heat pumps, data centers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also, of course, we need more power. So, but not power, which kind of power is very good when I've already heard today. Each country or region have to use with priority their own resources. So to maximize their energy independence which means energy security. And to improve their competitiveness and to take already, to make in a better manner as possible to minimize emissions. So I think that requires massive investment. So to mobilize this massive investment, we require, has been said as well, a predictable regulatory frameworks. I think the unpredictability or unstable regulatory frameworks means more cost, means not attractiveness for the capital to be invested. We need the legislation not only to accelerate permitting. I think you are doing very good things here in this country for trying to accelerate this process, but as well to avoid litigation. So it's not enough permitting, it's to make the legislation in a manner where the litigation will be avoided, because that delay all the process of construction. And to make already a tax environment attractive, as well you are doing here in this country, you try to do. We will discuss about that later on. I think I would like to say, I mentioned Britain because that, in our opinion, is a good example of what has been already been done. So it's a very clear plan to promote private investment in the sector, in networks, in power, They are trying to simplify permitting processes and make the things in an attractive manner, even already convincing regulators to do the things in a way which should be attractive. As well, the European Union, Commissioner, I think you are doing a great job with the clean industrial deal as well. But I think my point is now you have to hurry up the member state to translate into local legislation. So Sara, so you have work to be done. So also in the United States, I think they are clear planning in the same direction. So, and I think just finished, sorry, I know they need short in time. So we, Iberdrola, we are the largest European company for market cap. We are the second largest worldwide, and we are the largest investor in Europe in this energy transition. We are investing more than 14 billion per annum, which only in UK in the next 5 years is 24 billion committed with yourself, so which I think is a part of our thing. And same thing doing in other countries. So, but my point is stability, predictability, rule of law, and trying to avoid already legislation which permit another one to make litigated. And I think in this basis, the capital will be already rise and can be invested in different countries. Thank you, and sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Galán. Let's turn now to Ben Wilson, President of National Grid Ventures. Mr. Wilson, I'll ask you to be fairly short, otherwise the IEA won't have me back.
Yes, thank you, and congratulations to the UK government and the IEA on this very important summit. Really to emphasize the essential nature of grids, as has been commented on, dealing with the energy trilemma, and the need to develop a capacity-rich electric system to help us meet our challenges. So we need to build and upgrade grids as a priority, onshore and offshore, so we can connect new clean technologies, that we can electrify and digitalize the economy, and that we can deal with the increase in demand growth from AI, reindustrialization, EVs, and heat pumps, and give people access to affordable clean energy. So in the UK here, we are calling it the Great Grid Upgrade. And in both the UK and the US, we are investing $75 billion over the next 5 years in upgrading grids. The challenges we need to deal with, long-term system planning to give us the signals to invest, permitting, as has been mentioned, speedy and certain permitting, supporting the supply chain so that they can build capacity, so giving the supply chain certainty and transparency, creating the right regulatory arrangements that allow us to invest ahead of need. And I will congratulate the UK government on the initiatives that it's undertaking in all these spaces. And then lastly, increasing international cooperation, as mentioned by Dr. Birol, and I would highlight in particular the importance of cooperation between the UK, Norway, and the European Union. If we get all this right, we can deliver a secure, affordable, and clean energy system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. Let's turn to the president of INPEX, Takayuki Ueda. There you are, sir. We'll get a microphone. And you have maximum 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Maximum 2 minutes. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Ueda from INPEX Corporation. It's a Japanese energy company. First thing I'd like to mention is about the kind of my recognition about energy landscape or energy policy priorities. Now we talked about trilemmas and transitions. However, now there seems to be a lot of discrepancies, especially among industrialized countries seems to be increasing, especially regarding the climate change issues. So I think every country has now the different priorities in energy policies. So I believe that we are now living in a world where kind of common understanding about the issues, common understanding about the energy landscape or priorities management seems to be fading out or actually decreasing. So how to rebuild such kind of energy policies seems to be a very important job. I think the energy security issues, I think, proposed by IEA Secretariat and Party Bureau seems to be very much important initiatives at this moment. And with regard to the principles that lead the energy policies, I think I would like to echo with the 3 principles that was proposed by Dr. Birol's diversifications and cooperations. And, well, with regard to these principles, I would like to also also mentioned the importance, emphasized the importance of continued investment in energy sectors, including the oil and gas, nuclear, renewables, and so forth. But you should understand that to make an investment in energy sector usually requires a lot of massive capital investment and long times. And therefore, the principles of predictability is of course important, especially for the private company's point of view. I think when we will make an investment decision that is called final investment decision, FID, we will make an FID based on the business environment at that moment, including regulatory framework, taxation, and so forth. Therefore, if changes to these rules take place after the FID, that will really have undermine the mindset of private companies for the investment. Therefore, I would like to emphasize the principle that please don't move the goalpost after the game started. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ueda. Lastly, from the floor, let me turn to the Chief Executive Officer of the South African utility company Eskom, Dan Marokane. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I just want to start off by giving apologies on behalf of my ministers who could not be here. Just from a very high-level point of view, in South Africa, Eskom still remains responsible for 80% of the electricity supply, dominantly from coal. The transition is very much acute in our space. We have had very serious load supply interruptions in the last 3 years that are known worldwide. We have made tremendous progress in terms of the recovery of the operating fleet by focusing on maintenance programs, at the same time introducing reforms that accelerates renewable energy programs. Recently, we have gone very public with respect to investment, opening up investment opportunities for transmission line expansion to ensure that we can connect very distal and peripheral sources of renewable energy. Having said this, the challenge that the country still faces pertains to funding for the transition. We have only pledges to less than 40% of what is required for us to transition very responsibly in an area that is filled with very high unemployment rates and economic deprivation. And so in the process, we need to bring in the justness of the transition by making sure that as we do the change, we do not leave anyone behind. What are we doing? In the meantime, we're also focusing on responsible use of our coal by continuously investing in technologies that ensure that we can introduce cleaner technologies for the coal plants that continue to run. From an environmental sustainability point of view, our commitment to the 2030 targets for emission reductions remain. We've chosen a pathway that is different from what was initially anticipated, and this is very consistent that each and every of the countries will have a pathway that is talking to the realities of its origins. There are some interests, economic interests at heart here that we need to balance with aspects of responsible production of energy. From an accessibility point of view, South Africa has some 5% to go still for universal access, and our thinking is to really drive for this by utilization of off-grid solutions and also making sure that in the process we achieve both access and also environmentally cleaner technologies. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. So this session is also almost coming to an end. I know there'll be much more detailed discussions a little bit later on, but really a final word in 20 seconds each, on 25 seconds each, on what your biggest hope for this summit, actually. It's almost like a call for action.
So I think with this meeting, all of us together, we can think about how creating the right conditions we can provide what we think we are having in Spain. We are delivering, we are becoming a renewable superpower economy, and that is very important. So I hope that today we can have more superpower countries coming into this pathway. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Prime Minister.
Fossil fuel is going to remain one major source of energy, especially when it comes to electricity. This is especially true because this fuel is not only a source of energy, but also the basis for many industries, petrochemical industries, for example. This is one thing we should take into account when we are expanding and increasing investment in renewable energies and reducing emissions.
To summarize, I think collaboration and partnership will be key. Role of government, the role of the private sector, the role of international associations are very important to be working closely together. And I will take the words actually of Dr. Fadillah that numbers talk. I'm a firm believer in that, and even in terms of, from a government perspective, in terms of putting policies, in terms of fiscal regimes which are attractive for investors, and in terms on how we can work, whether in bilateral relations with other countries or with regional partners. Numbers always talk. Pragmatic, transparent, and highlighting synergies between the different parties always lead to a positive outcome. And I'm a firm believer in that, and I thank really the opportunity for being here in such an important event to discuss those matters. So thank you very much, and looking forward to being part of that energy provision to the world in peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For Malaysia, now energy is no longer about or confined to availability and affordability. We need, because of the evolving energy landscape, marked by renewable, digitalization, and also geopolitical volatility. We need what we call a more holistic and future-proof approach. So with that, we need to look into resilience, we need to look into sustainability, and also regional interdependence, the way forward. This will be the core pillars of the energy security. We also need to look as a forward-looking definition of energy security, must also address technology, access, cyber resilience, and also inclusivity of vulnerable group, in particular those who are in the rural and also remote areas. So this will be one of the areas that we need to look at. And I do agree with Dr. Berry, diversification, the clarity in terms of policies and strategies will be one of the core areas, and cooperation and collaboration is the way forward if we were to move ahead with energy security. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Minister?
My hope is not to go backwards regarding transition. We are not going to be looking for fuel when we have to go now for clean energy. We have to contemplate Colombia as the heart of Latin America. We have to become a big generator of energy with the decarbonization of not just our country, but the whole continent. I want to be the central point of Latin America. No more wars, with financial stability, and ready to collaborate with the foreign governments. Thank you.
So I'd love to invite now all the panelists to sit back down, because we're starting with our second panel. So our second distinguished panel of this opening session, let me please invite to the stage the Honourable Shirley Ayorkor Botchwey, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, to join me here on stage. His Excellency Mr. Marc Ferracci, Minister for Industry and Energy of France. The Honourable Lisa Cummins, Minister of Energy and Business Development, Barbados. Mr. Tommy Joyce, the Assistant Secretary for International Affairs at the U.S. Department of Energy, and of course, His Excellency Mr. German Galushenko, the Minister of Energy of Ukraine. So thank you so much. A round of applause maybe as they take their seats. We're just waiting for the water glasses to be replenished. Look, our first panel really focused on this whole of energy system approach to energy security, the interaction across fuels and parts of the energy system overall from different national and regional perspectives. Now we move on to the whole of security approach, namely how do we position and understand energy security into this broader energy security context, one that may include economic security, but also national security, food security, climate security, digital security, and beyond. So what are the broader aspects in general of energy energy security within the security world that we need to ensure to make sure that everything is considered and how best we achieve what we need. So let us start with the Secretary General. As we know, the Commonwealth has a very diverse range of more than 50 countries. When you come together to discuss energy issues, what are the main priorities and how do you fit them all in to the broader Commonwealth agenda? 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes to start off, and I think the microphone should be on. Yes.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank Secretary Miliband and Dr. Birol for convening this important summit, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute. Our subject could not be more important to me, to our Commonwealth family, and our shared future. Energy security is vital and it's complex. It's not simply about supply and demand. It's about resilience. It's about fairness. The Commonwealth, with 56 member states across every continent and ocean, lives this complexity every day. From energy-rich nations to small island developing states, from fast-growing economies to those still striving for universal energy access, we represent the full spectrum of the global energy story. Commonwealth's great strength and beauty lies in its combination of diversity and unity, and our heads of government have made their shared energy ambition clear. Our energy systems must be more secure, more sustainable, and more equitable. At the heart of this ambition is the recognition that energy is not just a commodity. It is the lifeblood of development. It powers our schools, our hospitals, enables innovation and industry, and opens the door to opportunity for millions. Yet today, perhaps more than ever, that lifeblood is threatened by geopolitical shocks, by climate change, by fractured supply chains and unequal access to technology and finance. And too often, the response to these threats has deepened inequalities rather than resolve them. Each one of us here knows that energy security must go hand in hand with climate action. And our clean energy transition must be a just one. It must deliver jobs, resilience, and prosperity in every region, not just a few. To achieve this, we need three things. First, a global commitment to cooperation over competition. True energy security is collective. No country is secure while others are left behind. Second, investment in people as much as in projects, building skills, technology, partnerships, and governance systems to empower nations to shape their own energy futures. This requires innovative approaches, including to financing. And third, a shared resolve to close the access gap so that energy security is not a privilege for some, but a guarantee for all. And I call this inclusive resilience, and it's a principle that can guide us in building a safer, cleaner, and fairer energy future for everybody. So thank you, and I look forward to the conversations.
Thank you so much, Secretary General. Let's now turn to Minister Ferracci of France. Minister, what key factors must be considered to ensure that there are efforts, of course, for secure energy supplies, but also that enhances industrial strength and long-term economic performance?
Thank you very much. And a warm thank you to Secretary Miliband and Dr. Birol for organizing this event. This is very, very important. Well, energy security is essential to our daily lives, essential to our economies, essential to our sovereignty. And what we discover right now is that the dependence to energy import in Europe is probably one of the greatest vulnerabilities we have. And in the scope of the competitiveness agenda, the autonomy challenges, Europe's fighting for its energy security appears to be one of the greatest challenges we have. What we see is that energy supply is used as a weapon. This is what we see right now. It's very clear in the light of the Russian aggression of Ukraine, with the deliberate disruption of gas trade. It's very clear when we see growing trade tensions on energy or on clean technologies. Gas trade is used as a bargain on global trade. Unfair trade practices are used to gain market dominance on clean technologies. So energy security is becoming a a geopolitical tool, and Europe, because I think of this problem as a European, cannot ignore this and cannot play along the rules of a previous age. We need a European doctrine on energy security, fit for the 21st century. And I think that this doctrine should address two issues. The first one is the issue of fossil fuels. As long as we remain massively dependent on fossil fuels, there will be no energy security for Europe. And I want to state this very clearly. We need to accelerate the phasing out of imported energy, and this means decarbonization and electrification. Decarbonization is not only a matter for fighting climate change. It's obviously very important, and France supports an increased effort at the European level for the 10 years of the Paris Agreement. But it's also a matter for job creation on clean industries. It's a matter for security. So we need to be less dependent. And electrification is also key. This is not a new story in France. In the oil crisis in the 70s, we launched a very big electrification plan with the construction of 13 nuclear plants. And we are facing similar challenges right now. And I think that we should have similar approaches, similar responses. The European Commission will be presenting its Repower Europe initiative in early May, and France expects this initiative to be a very ambitious plan to cut gas consumption at the European level. So we need some sort of a European Marshall Plan for electrification, and I hope that we will be able to deliver it. And the second and last issue is clean technologies. We also must be less dependent on imported technologies because otherwise there will be no energy security in Europe. We need to accelerate the strategic autonomy on clean technologies, and this actually is very much in line with the Draghi report and its recommendations. Europe must be an industrial leader, and this is what we support. It's very important that the clean industrial deal set at the European level be very ambitious. And we have many tools. Now we need to use them, and we need to act as Europeans in order to achieve this autonomic strategy.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you. And now let's turn to Minister Cummins. Minister, Barbados is, of course, exposed to extreme weather and climate changes and has historically been reliant on imported fossil fuels, but is also pursuing some pretty ambitious plans with domestic renewables. So how does this shape your perspective on what constitutes energy security for Barbados?
Thank you very much. I want to, of course, begin by thanking the government of the United Kingdom and of the IEA for hosting the summit today and for incorporating the voices of divergent types of countries. Barbados is a small island developing state. We are a developing economy, and for us, energy security looks very different than it does for different types of economies. And perhaps I can start by saying that I think that the speech introducing the IEA was perhaps one of the most significant things that started out the conversation, that framed where we have gone since then. The balancing between geopolitics. Barbados is on the receiving end of fossil fuel generation, in the sense that we are the country on the front line, one of the countries on the front line of sea level rise as a result of climate crises. We in the Caribbean, and I know that many of my Caribbean colleagues are not here today, and so I'm going to take the liberty to speak on behalf of the region as a whole, in particular given that my Prime Minister Motley, is, as we speak, or has just concluded climate talks in New York, and she is currently the chair of CARICOM in the region. Many of our countries are facing climate crises that we have not experienced before. Hurricanes, we are just beginning the hurricane season. Hurricanes are coming, they're faster, they're more violent, they're staying longer, and they're coming earlier in the season. And we've just begun the hurricane season, so we're waiting to see what comes next. So that's climate for us. You put that up against the energy transition for countries like ours. In 2024, Barbados imported over $1 billion in fossil fuels to be able to create electricity for the country. But simultaneously, on the energy transition side, and I am the minister with responsibility for that transition, we have ambitious targets. We are expecting that by 2030, 2035 as our outer limit, we are going to be in a position to be able to derive 100% of our electricity from renewable sources. Heavily dependent on that goal is our ability to get solar onboarded, wind onboarded, battery storage. That brings us back to IAEA's opening comments. Geopolitical tensions then create energy insecurity for countries like ours. We do not produce the technologies. We do not produce the energy goods. We are not the producers of fossil fuels. We are the importers and the price takers and the ones who are on the front line of every single geopolitical crisis that is happening around us. So if there are difficulties with procuring solar panels or battery storage or wind turbines or energy technologies, or with the research and development, Barbados's energy transition targets are on the front line as we are as a country with the climate crisis. And so that's the framing of the context for countries like ours. And so this summit is important for us, and it's the reason why we've traveled to be here, to be a part of the conversation, so that we never lose sight of what these conversations mean for countries who in a very real way, are very much on the front line of all of the geopolitical conversations and the geopolitical tensions that are currently wreaking havoc around the world right now and in this moment. And so we're very much looking forward to having a part of the framing of not just the conversation, but the outcomes that are going to be necessary. 3 main things that we want to see coming away from here: access to technology and affordable financing. The Bridgetown Initiative is one of those initiatives that we have launched to be able to do that. 2, affordability. I believe that my colleague from Malaysia spoke about that as well. If we have the investment and the investment returns are guaranteed, we want to make sure that it is affordable for consumers at the end. And then 3rd and finally, we want to be able to ensure that the energy mix that we are proposing, we have great partnerships with France. Now we're proposing to have our very first hydrogen plant there. We want to be able to see access to partnerships with our international industry partners to be able to have a diversified energy mix and diversified sources of the products and technologies coming from around the globe.
Thank you, Minister. Now, for the U.S. perspective with Mr. Joyce, prior to coming into office, the U.S. Energy Secretary, Wright, had highlighted the role of energy in bettering human lives, advocating for tackling energy poverty, and made the link between access to modern energy and progressing various forms of human development. How does that fit in with the current U.S. energy security priority?
Thanks, Francine, and thank you to the United Kingdom and the IEA for hosting this important event. Distinguished colleagues, there is no national or economic security without energy security. And energy security is not possible without access to secure, affordable, and reliable access to energy. Why? Because energy is essential to absolutely everything that we do. It's the one industry that undergirds all of the others. We know a highly energized society raises people out of poverty and brings health, wealth, and opportunity wherever it's found in abundance. And when and where their energy is scarce or restricted, humans suffer. Unfortunately, the focus during the last administration was on climate politics and policies leading to that scarcity. These policies have been embraced by many, not just in the United States, and harm human lives. This is why President Trump released a suite of energy-related executive orders to ensure our future is defined by energy growth and abundance, and reversing many of the political regulations from the prior administration and bringing back common sense to energy policymaking. The United States is blessed with abundant energy resources. We are the top oil, gas, and nuclear producer in the world, and we're the 4th largest coal producer. And since 2023, we've been the largest exporter of LNG. Despite this, some want to regulate every form of energy besides the so-called renewables, completely out of existence and in favor of a net zero agenda. We oppose these harmful and dangerous policies. This is not energy security, and we know exactly where it leads. The Biden administration tried to make Puerto Rico the net zero poster child. And they were supposed to be at 40% wind and solar this year and 100% soon thereafter. But after bolting on over about 30% of wind and solar, variable renewables, traditional grids begin failing, which is why experts are turning to modernized grid systems, which is really just a nice way of marketing an exponentially more expensive grid system in the trillions, not the billions of dollars. I'd be happy to explain why exactly that is in another panel, but the result is the same. We'd be trading one form of dependency for another, putting abstract emission goals in the interest of our adversaries first, and the security of our people last. A typical offshore wind turbine requires 4 tons of a permanent magnet made in the form of rare earth elements. And since China, the supplier of nearly all of them, restricted their sale, there are no wind turbines without concessions to or coercion from China. For true energy security, we must leverage all resources that are affordable, that are reliable, and that are secure. As Secretary of Energy Wright likes to say, it's about energy addition, not subtraction. And there's no world in which the demand for energy is going to decrease. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assistant Secretary Joyce. The messaging is pretty clear. Now let's also turn to Minister Galushenko. Thank you for being here. Ukraine has had to repair, protect, and rebuild the energy system at a speed and scale that most of us can actually not imagine. What is the situation today, and how are you trying to rebuild a stronger energy security for the future?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to the UK government and the IEA for this event. I think it's a very important topic, but probably I could give some other angle of this discussion. So we are operating the energy system 3 years during the full-scale invasion, but it's not only about the war, because the energy of Ukraine is constant target to Russia. They're attacking us non-stop and using all kinds of weapons they have. Mentioning the 3 main ideas about the energy security, which is predictability, cooperation, and possibility to diverse the supply. So I can tell you that in our situation, we do not have predictability, like zero. I would say that we have unpredictable situation because we do not know what energy facility would be hit today, tomorrow, whether it's generation, whether it's substation, or that is a gas production. And all figures which we calculated as like an idea to provide the energy security, unfortunately, they doesn't work in our situation. But what is very important that without the 2 other points, cooperation and possibility to diverse supply, we won't be able to survive. So we managed to survive in unpredictable situation. But without diversification of supply, it's almost impossible. And I think it's very important also to get this feeling that you should live in diversification of supplies. It not should be some emergency situation when you run for some other resources of supply. So that should be one of the key ideas for, all of us to have the diversification in supplies, all resources which we need for the energy. The cooperation, that is what we need to survive, because we have a great example, I think, because 3 hours before the full-scale invasion, we were disconnected from Russia and Belarus grids. And the cooperation which we had with our partners allowed us to be connected in 21 days to European energy system, and it's really provide us the possibility to have this energy security and security of supply and reserves in case of attacks, which we use all the times. And another point, which is also very important in this context, that you should look to the mix of the energy from the also point of view of energy security, first of all. And now we have some new challenges because, for instance, we look now for decentralized generation. as not only a security of supply, but that is also an issue of military risks, because we see that decentralized generation is really more difficult targets to be attacked by thousands of missile drones, everything what is used to destroy the energy infrastructure. And one thing which is also important, and that's, I think that we have to understand that the energy security is very expensive task. We should know that we should not save money on energy security, because you know, sometimes you could calculate these figures and think whether you need to spend money on some additional resources or for some interconnectors on something which bring more strength and resilience to the system. Yes, it's a very expensive task, but we have here first should be the security of supply, and security of supply to the people, to the industry, to be sure that the country would go on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Thank you to all of our panelists. And just as before, we'll turn to industry participants in the audience who also get your perspective. So first up, let's turn to the incoming Chief Executive of SSE, Martin Pibworth, to get your perspective, sir. If you'd like to stand up so that the camera also catches you.
Thank you, Francine. Thank you to the UK government. Thank you to the IEA for inviting us to speak, and thank you for organising this important summit. I think the world of risk that we all operate in has been very well articulated by the panel, so I don't mean to go into too much on that. For us, the three things that help energy security very briefly are a mass rollout of renewables, which in the opening address is made very clear the world was already on that journey, and of course we support that within SSE. Secondly, we need grids to transport that, and we think the momentum behind grid build-out is improving. There's obviously a lot of discussion at COP in Baku about that, but also the possibilities of different country policies moving grids forward has also been well noted. And of course, here in the UK, as has already been mentioned, we're grateful to regulatory and political support to get grid moving and rolled out. The third issue I'd just like to put on the table, if I may, for energy security is the need for flexibility. I guess the UK market and the European market all learnt a German word last winter, Dunkelflaute, and the absence of wind and solar and the pressures that put on markets. It probably reminded us all that in a growingly intermittent system, we do need to dispatch new flexibility, and it's probably not going to be enough for 2, 4, 8-hour batteries. We're going to need something else. Of course, demand side has a role to play in that. Of course, hydro and pump storage also have a big role to play in that. But I think ultimately, we're going to have to look for new ways to put clean power flexibility in, and it's in the form of clean gas, and hydrogen and carbon capture are possibilities. I'd probably like to make the point that this probably isn't progressing anywhere in the world fast enough. We would like to see that accelerated, of course we would. The good news is, and I'm essentially an optimistic person, the good news is the technology is there. I think the risk appetite to deploy it is there. I think the investment money is also there. So this therefore becomes a policy and market design challenge. And because it's a policy and market design challenge, it becomes within our intellectual capabilities to resolve it. We think that means faster permitting, greater stability and certainty for investors, market frameworks that reward flexibility and low carbon reliability. But it also means, and this is probably my crucial closing point, we need to see time and the passing of time as a risk factor. The faster we go, the faster we get there, the faster we unlock new innovation, new technology, and better affordability consequences for economies around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pibworth. Let's now turn to Urenco, the supplier of the nuclear industry, and its Chief Commercial Officer, Laurent Audet.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for having us. So energy security is no longer just about supply, it's about sovereignty and resilience as well. The evolving dynamics of the energy system call for decisive actions to deliver the fundamental changes required to achieve a fair, affordable, sustainable and secure clean energy system. That means we, public and private sectors, need to prioritize all the steps that will enable the delivery of a cleaner, cheaper, energy generation whilst ensuring resilient system that delivers security of supply. In recognition of the expensive transformation required to the global energy network, nuclear energy provides a clear and strategic pathway to propel us on the route to energy security. Nuclear delivers reliable low-carbon baseload power that operates 24/7, and it also enhances the energy independence. So us, in the fuel cycle, we will be central to deploying this new nuclear and will provide access to diversified fuel supply that will strengthen national resilience as well as it reduces exposure to dependencies. At Urenco, we're investing in the capacity of all of our 4 sites in the world, in our 3 founding countries, the UK, the Netherlands, Germany, as well as in our largest market, the United States. That to meet increased customer demand, and we're also getting ready to fuel the reactors of tomorrow. So all of that requires a lot of collaboration between allied countries, most of them being here today, and we need your help to develop predictable political and regulatory framework that will secure the fuel supply chain for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's also turn to the CEO of UK Climate Change Committee, Ms. Emma Pinchbeck.
Yeah, I can stand up, thanks. I'm the Chief Executive of the Climate Change Committee. Useful knowing for this audience that I was the Chief Executive of the UK's energy trade body until last November. And with the statutory independent body, we exist to think about the long term beyond short-term politics. And there are 26 other organisations advising national governments like us around the world, including in Ukraine. Energy is obviously critical to delivering on our international climate commitments. We have just said we think 60% of UK emissions reduction to 2040 depends on electrification in the UK. But the good news is that we also said that we think that system is the cheapest for the UK and it will insulate the UK economy from future fossil fuel price volatility. In other words, it's also good for national security. We also look right across the economy. So we know that the energy transition underpins wider security. For example, we cannot produce more food in the UK without greenhouses that are cheap to heat. We cannot build more factories in the UK without grid connections and cheap energy prices. So it's really right to focus on immediate security challenges, everything people have said, short-term affordability, energy access, certainly the risk around new global supply chains, new commodities, critical minerals, and recent political and geopolitical instability. But I think our plea would also be to think about security in the longer term and to take Martin's point, to allow flexibility in that. We are going to need to bring forward new technologies, some of which we're not sure about, for example, long-duration storage, carbon capture, synthetic fuels, or flexibility. We've got AI coming through and new industries, and we're not sure what the demand profiles for those will be. We have the impacts of climate change, which we know will impact our infrastructure, but to what degree is still uncertain. And so it's necessary, we would say, to think about energy security for today's challenges, for this decade, but also for the 2040s and beyond. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Now, final comment from the floor. The CEO of Equinor, Mr. Anders Opedal. It's coming. Hold on tight.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you, Mr. Ed Miliband and Fatih Birol for inviting for this event. I'm the CEO of Equinor. We are the largest energy provider to Europe, particularly natural gas, and we're working really hard every day together with the Norwegian government and other energy providers in Norway to ensure that Norway is a safe and reliable provider of energy to Europe. I became COO of this company during COVID. And at that time, most of the energy discussion and energy system discussion was about decarbonization, and the cost of capital was really low. But already then, we saw some signs of underinvestment also in oil and gas, which was supercharged when we had the invasion in Ukraine. Now the cost of capital and the supply chain, all the cost is going up. So we see that the transformation of the energy system will be a little bit more costly. So what are the challenges I see that we need to solve for solving the energy trilemma? Well, we do see an increasing polarization over energy policies. Different technologies are having different pros and cons, and there are different views on different technologies. We see cost increases, particularly cost of capital, but also on the supply chain. And we also know that the new energy over time needs to have a lower CO2 carbon footprint. So from my perspectives, what would I like to see? Well, I would like to see broad political compromises around technologies in the energy system. Because as a long-term investors, and we investing around $12 to $13 billion in energy projects around the world every year, and with polarization, then that will limit predictability for our investments. The second point I would like to make is pragmatism. Here in UK, for every dollar we invest in oil and gas, we also invest $2 into renewables, CCS, gas to power, etc. But I do think that this dollar of investments in oil and gas is also needed both in Europe and UK to ensure that we have a balanced energy transition. To sum up, broad political compromises over the energy transition and pragmatism to ensure a balanced energy transition. That is what I see is needed going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we've just heard from major energy companies and organizations operating across all different parts of the energy system: renewable, thermal generation grids, nuclear supply chains, climate governance, oil and gas, and energy storage. Now let's get back to our panel. We do have a couple of minutes, so you have about a minute each. If you could push, Secretary General, for one priority or one outcome that you want to see from this summit, something concrete, to make sure that our approach to ensuring energy security is better in the future than it is today, what would that be?
Thank you very much. Let me say that one thing we should never lose sight of is the fact that energy security is about people. It's about the well-being of people. And for me, serving the 2.7 billion Commonwealth population, it's about education, it's about healthcare, it's about industry, it's about job creation. And therefore, when consumer countries and the private sector go into countries to provide energy security, they need to ensure that they do not leave these countries without development. And we see a lot where minerals are extracted and yet there's no development for these countries and they remain insecure energy-wise. Access is important. Affordability is also extremely important. And we must ensure that we have the people-centered approach to everything that we do, especially the private sector, and I know there are a lot of them here. We need to be very responsible and ensure that we leave no one behind, because it is about people and not about technology and not about infrastructure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Minister.
Yeah, I quite agree. Very much agree. I think that our priority should be to achieve energy security through dispatchable energy mix. We need some complementarity. I think that complementarity is a key word, complementarity between energies. And if I should illustrate this with the French example, we have a strategy in order to achieve energy security, which is based on mainly renewables and nuclear. It's very important to achieve this complementarity because nuclear energy is key to provide affordable baseload production to the system, and it also reduces system costs and it provides services to the whole network. In the long term, we will need more nuclear power. In the short term, we also need more renewable. That is the base, the core of our strategy. Renewables are essential because they provide electricity at a very competitive cost right now and in the short term. So this complementarity is essential, and I think that it gives predictability if we achieve some planification. And our whole strategy is based on an exercise of planification, which will be published in the next few weeks for the years to come. I think that we need to conclude, to act very quickly, and this has been said. We need to achieve technology gains and all sorts of results, but we need to act very quickly with a long-term vision.
Thank you so much, Minister. Your priority for this summit in 1 minute. Minister Cummings, yes.
I'd like for us to walk away from here at the end of this summit with some clarity on how technology advances and technology innovations could benefit small island developing states and developing economies that are not the originators of the technology. Our colleague, when he spoke just now, he talked about becoming COO of the company during COVID. During COVID, many of the countries, and Secretary General ComSec, we had the African Medical Services Platform, where countries in the Caribbean and in Africa, the developing world, developed a platform that allowed for countries that were on the front line at the time of the pandemic to be able to have access to therapeutics and medical equipment. Energy security for our country now requires us to partner with the developed partners, with industry, with the technology implementers and the technology developers to be able to ensure that small island developing states and developing countries have access to the technology and the innovations that help us to achieve energy security.
Thank you so much, Assistant Secretary.
Yeah, thank you. So my hope for this summit is that when we're defining energy security, first, we remember God's golden rule, and that is that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And that there are still 7 billion people out there that don't have what you have. They don't experience rooms like this. And that we should do our best to get out of their way and to let them lift themselves out of poverty, especially through affordable energy and access to financing through multilateral institutions like the World Bank. That we also realize that energy abundance results in prosperity for our people, and it results in peace abroad. That there are adversaries out there, and we need to protect our critical infrastructure from malign actors, stabilize our grids, and prepare to operate through a disruption. And this is a quote from the DNI 2025 threat assessment. We need to prepare to operate through a disruption as China is already pre-positioned for cyber strikes designed to deter military action by impeding decision-making and including societal panic. End quote. My hope is that here at the summit, with allies and partners gathered, we can discuss these issues pragmatically, just as the Lord Admiralty did when shifting the British Royal Navy to faster oil-powered vessels. We too can shape a future for energy security that is honest about the world's growing energy needs, not focused on net zero politics, nor does it restrict energy financing for developing countries in need of growth. And it doesn't burden energy producers with ESG policies. Because ultimately, energy security isn't the responsibility of any one of us, but it's the responsibility of all of us here gathered in this room. We all must be ready to take the actions needed to ensure the prosperity and peace that comes with the bounty of secure, affordable, and reliable access to energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Galushenko.
I just think about several points. First of all, of course, very important that when you have the access to the energy or you have affordable prices, the energy system should be resilient as it is separately from the access to the resources. And that is, we feel it's, and of course it's about the people, because we had one day, it was 23rd of November 22, when we almost have the total blackout of the country after another massive attack to the energy infrastructure. And of course, you could imagine when people are living without electricity supply for days. And that is really a challenge, of course, to understand that the resilience of the system is also very important from the other aspects, like how you protect or how you ensure that this operate in some extraordinary conditions. But one thing which is also very important to mention concerning the energy security, that is cyber security in the energy, because what we had in Ukraine before each massive attacks to the energy infrastructure, we had 1 week or a week before very heavy cyber attacks to the energy infrastructure, which aim to destroy the system before the attacks of the weapon. That's why I think that the cyber security is one of the key tasks to be key element in the energy security, I mean, to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists. Before I let everyone go, I just have 20 seconds to conclude, of course, this plenary sessions, and we're also concluding the summit live stream. Now, for those of you following us on live stream, please rejoin at 2:45 p.m. It's actually changed. That's when we'll have keynote speeches from the UK Prime Minister and the European Commission President. Now, for those of you here in London with me, we move to the coffee break, and then the first breakout session starting at 11:25. Please do arrive on time, as there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.